Major Kira thinks holosuite programs are a waste of time. Odo cosplays a duffel bag. And Garrick is completely honest with Sisko for the first time ever. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Seventh Rule with Cirroc Lofton.
Hello, hello.
My name is Ryan T. Husk, and today we are joined by the most special of all guests, Nana Visitor.
Hey, guys.
We're also joined by the other most special of guests, Malissa Longo.
Hi.
Hey.
And today we are reviewing Deep Space Nine, Season 3, Episode 5, Second Skin, directed by the infamous Les Landau, written by our good friend, Mr. Robert Hewitt Wolf. How you guys doing?
Excellent.
Doing good.
Awesome.
Doing good. When we spoke with Robert about this episode coming up, he wanted to send an apology to you again, saying that he was sorry that he made you wear this makeup for this episode.
Oh my God. Oh my God. It came flooding back to me as I watched the episode. I hadn't watched this episode since it aired, so it was really all new to me. But yeah, being called in at 1 a.m. and the rest of the guys in at 7 a.m. And then the day starts. I remember I gave poor Les Landau a horrible time. I think it was probably that night at about 10 or 11, I cracked. I couldn't take it anymore. I was claustrophobic. The nose piece went over my nose so that I could feel I don't know why this freaks me out. It's hard with a mask these days too. When your own breath goes back at you, I felt like I couldn't breathe. God, I started taking the pieces off, saying, "That's it. That was your last shot." I'm saying this because I think he knew I was losing it, and somehow we got through the rest of the night. But it was, yeah, that was tough. But watching it, well worth it.
But that was like a 20-hour, 22-hour day is what you're saying.
Yeah. Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
And having claustrophobia for that length of time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it starts to get you.
And then at just some point, you're just like, I can't do this anymore. I have to breathe.
Yeah. Yep. It just, well, and again, we've talked about this before, Cirroc, but the days were so long, it wasn't like, okay, I've got this job and I'm doing at 1 a.m. That was after 2.5 years of day in, day out, sleep deprivation. So you're already starting with an empty tank, and you're already half out of your mind. So that doesn't help.
I was looking at you in this episode, and they have the chin prosthetics to kind of square up your jaw a little bit.
Yeah.
And then they have the piece, I guess it goes over your ears. And then obviously the wig as well. So it's
And the neck, yeah.
Yeah, and the neck.
Yeah. I mean,
was it the nose that bothered you the most, or?
It seemed, now tell me if I'm wrong, but it seemed more elaborate than the other Cardassians. It seemed like I had more. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but it was, oh my God, it was a lot. It was a lot. But again, he wrote such a great script, and it had such a great message, and it was such a great opportunity. It was like, to me, I'll just say, watching it, I thought it was kind of classic Trek in that it was a standalone. You got it. There was racism on both sides, and boom, now she's the thing that she hates most. Now what?
Right. Something I noticed too was that Major Kira now has officially a soft spot for 2 Cardassians so far where we are. The first one was Duet, and now it's this guy.
She's got a thing for old, like father. She does. But Bajoran ones, she burns their house down. Remember the older guy? It's like, but yeah, she's got this father-daughter thing going on. Obviously, but 2 Cardassian. That's an important move in her her arc for how she moves away from racism until she's finally working with Cardassians.
Right.
You know, one thing that stands out to me also watching this episode, it basically has been clear to me up until this point, now the third season, 5th episode, that you're the star of the show, because you've had the most centric episodes with your character, and I think the ones that stand out the most are your episodes so far up until this point. So I'm just pleasantly surprised because I didn't realize this, because obviously I wasn't in some of these episodes. I didn't really film, and I didn't know how much your character was just like the most prominent character in the show. I wanted to know if they did, like, if you got the support of the women's groups and things of that nature that said, let's elevate this woman because she's really a strong female character and let's get behind her. Was there any of that going on?
First of all, I appreciate you saying that. Still watching the show, I look at Avery in those scenes and I go, there's our star. I mean, I just simply feel that way. But I got no support. I got zero. At that time, it wasn't a popular, it made everyone a little bit, my character, people were uncomfortable with what I was doing. That's not really what we want to see. So, no, I didn't. And from women, I would get, you don't have to have the strength of a man. You don't have to be tough. And I just wouldn't go into, but you have to look at the circumstance she's in. You have to look at what her life was. This was a fighter. She was a fighter. That makes a difference. It's not like she's got an easy life. But no, pretty much everyone steered clear. It was only like maybe 5 years ago that I got an inkling of people going, hey, you know what? Your character was the first one that I saw do such and such. And that was the first time I went, because I just kind of kept I really believed what I was doing was right, but I kept my head down and I didn't listen too much because not much of it was good, what I was hearing in terms of feedback.
You know, to piggyback off what Cirroc was saying about Major Kira being the star of the show, it just kind of made me realize that where we are now, the 5th episode of the 3rd season, it does seem as though Major Kira has had the biggest character arc so far, the most character development, in that it was just 2 or 3 episodes ago, Cirroc, you and I were talking about how there was this moment between Kira and Sisko, which was the first time I saw Kira talking to Sisko in a softer tone, as if talking to him a little bit more as a friend than as, a boss or even competition initially. There was almost a little bit of hostility before. And so at this juncture, Kira's had the most character development of any of the characters. We're seeing a little bit with Bashir as well and Garrick as well, but I think Kira for sure.
Which I'm totally fine with, because Nana, you are killing all these performances, like, hands down. There's nobody that can really do what you've done better than what you've done it. The intensity in the eyes, the quickness with the wit, and just how you hold your own against anybody. I don't care which what guest stars we bring in or what regular characters we have. You're tough, and I love it.
Thank you. God, thank you. That means so much you can't imagine. And of guest stars, Larry Pressman, huh?
Yes.
He was so hard to make yourself likable underneath all that stuff.
Yes.
And you felt so much for him. Plus, it's worth mentioning that when you jump on a show like this, it's one thing, you're used to the pace, you're used to the language, you're used to the makeup. He just jumped in, and it was like you wouldn't even think, oh, the guy's having a hard time with his makeup. Didn't even consider that. It's wild.
That's true. You know, one last thought about makeup. I know Melissa's got a lot of thoughts on this episode, but one last thought on makeup was I've also had prosthetics on my face a lot of times, and you never know if it's going to bother you until you just do it. You go like, well, I'm assuming it should be okay. And to my surprise and luck, it didn't bother me at all, you know, no matter how many hours, you know, fully done up. But it did get to me when they were taking it off, because once you're done and they say, okay, time to get it off, you think it's going to be like, okay, great, moving on, hello world. But really it takes, you know, 30, 45, an hour for them to take it off, but you're already in makeup off mode. So that's when it kind of started to stress me out a little bit, when I'm just like, can you get this?
Hurry up and get this thing
yeah,
off.
It's killing me now. I don't know if you had anything like that, or if it was just terrible the whole way through.
No, it was pretty much terrible the whole way through. They tried to put Quark's head on me for the next episode, and I went, I can't. I stressed from being a Kardashian, so they got a body double. But I think that what you're talking about, the time it takes, it took me 20 minutes to get my nose off. But at 2 a.m, I'd be like, oh my God, no. And I used to rip it off. Well, I've got a mark here from it that I have to do extra makeup every day. Because the first year I did it, and then the second year I went, wow, I'm not going to have a nose if I keep doing that. So I stopped pulling it off. But yeah, I have red marks all over here.
Yeah, for me, it was the eyelids. I only did that once, though. Like, I am not ripping this off my eyelids. They can't take it.
That's great.
Melissa.
You made a good Kardashian, too.
That would be fun to play a Kardashian.
You've already got the hair going. Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to see her as a Romulan with the bowl cut.
That would be fun, too.
Being all sinister.
Yeah.
But you mentioned something, Nana. You said that this episode was like a classic Trek episode. And I want to second that opinion, because I was watching this with the same kind of mindset, thinking, this is classic Trek. They take the things that we're comfortable with and then make you uncomfortable.
Right.
And they play on the same, like, for example, your character being, you know, this freedom fighter, and then they put you on the other side of the team. And you having to deal with the emotions of processing, you know, there somebody on the opposite side calling you friend or daughter. And I just thought it's a classic way that Trek deals with these kinds of themes and these issues. They always, I think Robert Hewitt Wolf said, whatever the audience expects, we do the opposite of.
Right.
Yeah, it's kind of like having an egg beater in your brain for a minute. It's like, no, you can't think about it this way, because we're going to make you come around the other side to look at this whole subject. And I do think it was classic, and also a standalone. I understood last night exactly what was happening.
Mm-hmm.
Me too.
And what they were trying to get across.
You know, to touch on the writing a bit more too, it's always impressive the way the Deep Space Nine writers find a way to incorporate so many elements that are necessary for it to be a good script. You know, the twist at the end, even if you know where it's going, even if you successfully predict where it's going to go, you don't know how it's going to get there. And or they create this element, which it would have been just as easy for Major Kira to be a Cardassian, for her to learn lessons and escape. But they put that twist in that they're not trying to get Kira, they're trying to get Iliana's father. And, you know, suddenly we learn so much more about him. And this is totally unexpected. There's no way we could have expected it. And these are just all the little things that separate, you know, like a good script from a great one, I think.
And by the way, I noticed that all that information had to be delivered by Kira in one speech, the twist. And yet the writing is so good, you don't really notice it. It's like, oh, okay, now we're up to, that makes sense. You're discovering at the same time she does, and it doesn't feel like one of those horrible things where someone's got a gun in a scene and they say, "This is why I'm killing you. You did this and this and forever." And it's like, no, just kill them.
Yeah, right. My master plan was to get you in this room and tie to a chair. The bomb will explode in 30 minutes. And you're like, okay, here we go.
Yeah, it didn't
Squeeze it all in.
It was very natural and boom, and they didn't waste. There was no fat in the episode.
They couldn't afford it.
You know, I don't think I ever really understood that Garrick was being outed as this super spy.
Really?
I know. I wasn't that aware. I kind of, when we filmed it, it was like, oh yeah, right. Okay. But now I go, oh my God.
Well, where you shined in the A storyline, I think Andrew Robinson shined in the B storyline. And he completely nailed his performance as Garrick, I thought, in this episode, giving us more of what we love, this kind of shady, mysterious, is he on our side, is he on their side kind of performance. But I want to go to the scene that Ryan has in his backdrop behind him, which is the scene where you're looking into yourself in the mirror. And I really love that scene. I wrote down here, fantastic acting. I loved it. Because you look at yourself and it's like, this is not me, but this is me now. And I registered all that in that performance, in that mirror on the wall type moment.
I also love the idea that, and it's true for the plasticity of our brains, that, okay, take this sentient being and program this in her. That's the way she's going to think. Program that. So, just the idea that thoughts have so much power and that we can change them. And that's what she finally does as Kira. She changes her own thought about this man that was her father and sees it as there was something about the bracelet, the preciousness of the bracelet that made it was like actually physicalizing the compassion that he gave her, right, and she can now give him.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. That's a good point.
Yeah, this belonged to your mother, and it really summed up all of those emotions in like a tangible object. And you get to see that switch where she begins to soften in her stance a little bit. I love the interrogation scene when they start trying to get you to tell, how many people are on the ship and tell us what's going on Deep Space Nine. And you give like the best lie. You pass it off so good that I had to double check. I was like, no, they let her in ops. Don't they let her in ops? Like, I was saying to myself, this can't be true. She's like, yeah, there's 30 to 40,000 of them. You know?
Yeah. Fact check.
Fact check. And I was like, is there really that many people? So I was actually, you were so good at the interrogation scene that just completely like playing with them. And that's just another thing you do so well is you sell these moments. And, sometimes I watch my performances. I say, wow, I suck. Every time, oh, I do. And, or I don't believe that. Sometimes I'll look at it and say, you know what? I don't really believe me that much. But
Cirroc, I gotta watch you as a child act has to be one of the toughest things ever. How can you do it? I can barely watch myself in anything ever at any point in time. But if I watch myself as a child, oh my God, it would be really hard not to come down hard on myself.
I do come down.
Yeah, I'm sure
it's not easy because I didn't really have much reference to go to, and now I'm looking at it with an adult mind, so it's really more critical. But I watch you, and I believe what you're going through, and that to me is the sign of great acting. Is, do I believe you or not? Have you sold me on the fact that you're this person or not? And I never question whether I believe Kira or not. It's like I'm totally bought in on that.
I love that. Thank you, sir.
That's awesome.
You know, we've got a few minutes left before we take our break for our second segment. Melissa, I wanted to ask you very quickly, because when I saw Kira as a Cardassian, my first thought was, oh, she looks pretty good. It works, you know, with her bone structure, because sometimes we've seen certain characters becoming a different race. You know, later on we see like poor O'Brien as a Klingon, which just looked very... I don't know if you remember that, but it just did. Oh, I was just like, this poor guy. But with you, it worked. And I, you know, Melissa, I believe you said Kira was your favorite character, and I want to know like what you thought of her as a Cardassian. Did it work for you, or were you like, give me back my Kira?
I've always give me back my Kira, but I think this worked because I believe the struggle that she went through. She was a Bajoran, and I love the strength of her convictions. She's always committed into what she throws herself into, but at the same time, she's open to learning and absorbing and trying to figure out where the truth is, and but she's always, I took that she was always trying to be a better version of herself, which is why I liked Kira's character so much. It's because she started one way in episode 1, and she had all these walls up, and she's, you know, gung-ho against everyone in the entire universe, and those walls start to crumble because of the great storytelling throughout all the seasons. So that's what I liked. And I liked that she was strong, and she was, you know, because you didn't see that much on television. So as a teenager watching it, I was like, yeah, why can't I see more women like this? You know, it's somebody's willing to fight for what they believe in. And so that's what I always liked. And I liked the growth in this episode, and how you feel for Iliana's father, because he's just as broken, and he's lost just as much as everyone else in the resistance, and the way they connect on that is really great to see as well. And Kira gave him a gift in accepting the bracelet, and, you know, that was for his daughter, that was her mother's, and so I
think we all just like listening to you talk, Melissa. We all just kind of got quiet and just like listen to story time. We do have to take our break very quickly, and we'll be right back on the 7th Rule.